Well, all right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed yesterday's class and the investigation that you did. So you have some questions about what happened yesterday, and your assignment today is to design an experiment to figure out all of the chemical and physical changes that took place. What caused them? So your job today is to design an investigation. Let me show you how that's going to work. Let's go back to the example that I did on the first day with the saloon story. I had two flasks, and in one of those flasks, when I poured the liquid into the beakers, it came out clear. The next time I poured out of that same flask into two beakers, they turned red. Then I poured all of the materials from the beakers back into that first flask, and everything stayed red. Then when the marshal came in and he was given his drink, I don't know if you noticed, but I actually did that out of a second flask. And when I did that, his was clear. Then when the marshal asked for the big flask with the red material in it, I put that on the counter and poured the liquid from flask number 2 into flask number 1, and everything turned clear. So if I were to design an investigation to figure out what was going on in that activity, I would need to have everything that I had set up on for the demonstration on Monday. I would need the liquids that were in both of the flasks. I would need all of the beakers, the little cups that I had, and then I could begin to test each of those beakers with liquid number 1, each of those beakers with liquid number 2 to see what happens, so I can figure out where all those changes took place. I might be able to get out some pH paper, if you know what that is, and take a look at the pH. I might be able to do other things to investigate so that I can determine what changes took place and what caused each of those changes. So that's an example of how I would put together an investigation. I wouldn't just dump everything together and see what happened. I know what happens. What I'm trying to figure out now is what is responsible for each of the changes that I'm seeing. Let's go back to yesterday's activity. So you had the bag, you had a couple of different powders, you had some liquid in that film canister, and you saw that there were quite a few changes that took place. So what you need to do now is to figure out which of those reactions caused which changes. So in other words, was it the fine powder that caused certain reaction? Was it the ones that look like little pellets? Is that the one that caused the reaction? Was there something going on between the liquid and the pellet powder? Was there something going on between the liquid and the fine powder? So your job today is to write out on paper, and you can do this in your groups, but everybody needs to have this written down in their notebooks. What are you going to do to investigate, to design an investigation, an experiment, to figure out all of those changes that took place? There were color changes. There were gas bubbles that were created. Where did all of those changes come from? And there were other changes as well. So you are going to get all of the materials that you had yesterday, but instead of doing all this in a Ziploc bag, because we know what happens, you're going to do it in small chemistry trays. You don't need a lot of the material. So you'll have little stir sticks, and you'll put a little bit of the powder in one of those little holes in your chem tray, add some of the liquid, see what happened. For the liquid, you're going to have both the liquid that you had yesterday in class, and you're also going to have water. So you'll have both of those, and at this point it doesn't matter what the stuff is. I don't care that it's salt or vinegar or whatever. I just want to know what powders and liquids are causing what reactions. You need to write that all down in your notebooks. Mr. Hanaho needs to come by and say, I agree that that's a good investigation. He'll put a star or a check mark on your group's notebooks, and then you can go to work. You'll get the materials and you'll begin to do your investigation. While you're doing your investigations, make sure you take really good notes. And then what you will be prepared to do when I come back on Friday is you are going to argue from your evidence in terms of what reactions were caused by what materials. Okay? Should be plenty to do there today, and I'll see you again on Friday. Thanks.